What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. I'm so glad you are here because you could be anywhere else, but you are here on Straight Talk with us, and I love you for it. I know that you come here to hear really good people. I try to go around this amazing planet of ours, finding the best people I can find to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. I found Valeria, also known as Miss V, right? She's a storyteller, and I cannot wait for you to meet her because I already fell in love. I already fell in love. And
Ah,
she introduces herself as someone who has lost her voice at the age of 6, which I want to talk about, and regained it again at the age of 23. Now, she discovered a passion for sharing her personal stories with friends and decided to transform it into a podcast. Now, Miss V's podcast aims to reach out to individuals who have experienced a loss of their own voice and the desire to reclaim it. I love that so much, Valeria, because I think that's one of the things that people are struggling with, especially
mhm.
like even though there's a lot of people talking right now on social media, there's a lot of people talking, but nobody's listening or people feel like they're not being listened to. So a voice is super powerful when you can find it, right? So I'm glad
Yes.
you're helping people with that. I want to know you though, because you are super fun. So I want to know more about you. And so let us know a little bit about who Valeria is.
Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here. This has been a journey to get here, but I am here and I'm so excited. My name is Valeria, as she just said, and I'm Miss V, the storyteller. I have been a storyteller for about 45 years now, but basically, I've been a storyteller my entire life. But professionally, it's been about 5 years. I used to tell stories all the time when I was younger, and I decided, I'm gonna, well, with God was like, you're gonna be a storyteller. And I was like, you want me to be a storyteller, somebody who didn't talk? I thought, now everybody said God got a sense of humor. That day he told me I was a storyteller, I felt like that humor was coming out,
Right.
but I am a storyteller. God is like, you're going to do it. And he wants me to help people to find their voices. I'm also an author. I'm so excited about that. I have a book out. I have written some stories in my podcast. All the stories on the podcast are personal stories about things that had happened to me in my life, in the journey that I went on. I'm also a teacher. I teach classes. I do one-on-one consults to help people to find their voices and to write and to tell their voices. So to write and to tell their stories. So I
Mhm.
have a lot, I wear a lot of hats, but I love each and every hat that I wear.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I do want you to take us back a little bit and touch on what you just said because you said you didn't have a voice from a young age and you found it at 23, I think you said. So tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean that you lost your voice at 6? So tell us about that, or that
Well,
you didn't have a voice. Yeah.
right. I say that I lost my voice at the age of 6, and what I don't mean is medically.
Right.
I At a 6-year old, I said I'm gonna stop talking. It was
Oh
a way
wow.
to protect myself and a way to stay out of trouble. My father was a yeller, and that's the only way he kind of knew how to communicate. And I can't really blame him because he got it from his father,
His
my
father.
granddaddy,
Hmm.
who was a yeller. So it was a learned behavior. And he used to yell all the time. And apparently, I'm number 3 out of 4. I was the one that came out of the womb all sensitive and whatever. So it used to bother me. And one day he was just going off in the house. And I said to myself, just don't say anything. Just don't say anything. And I didn't. And I
Mm.
didn't get any trouble. And I'm like, whoa. So I did it again and again and again, and it worked. So I not saying that I was perfect. I might have got in a little bit of trouble, but not like before when I would say something back. And it
Hmm.
worked. So it went in school. I'm like, hey, it works at home. Let's try it in school. It worked. I didn't get in trouble for the most part. Yeah, my mom got notes home. I need your daughter to speak up a little bit, but it wasn't that, to me, that wasn't bad.
Hmm.
Like some kids get real notes home, like your child is just a hot daggone mess and you need to come get them. None of that happened to me, but I didn't talk. And then it went into middle school and it went into high school. And because I'm fluffy, and I'm shy and I didn't talk. I got bullied. I got just, I mean, they were mean to me. When I say mean, I mean mean
Mm,
to me.
mm,
And then I got physically bullied in high school because they knew I wasn't going to say anything. It's just like my siblings. They would blame me for stuff, but they knew I wasn't going to stand up for myself. And then my parents would believe them. So at home, there were side effects from not talking. In
mm-hmm.
school, the side effects was, walking down the hall, somebody joking you, walk past you and just push you, call you names. But then when I got out of high school, I'm like, oh, it's going to be better. No, God darn, adults are just as mean as children sometimes. And so
Yeah.
they got me to the point where I had no self-esteem because they would talk about me and joke me, and even some adults would bully me. And it got to the point I held my head down all the time. I didn't say anything, and people would talk across me. My voice got so soft when I did speak, you could barely hear me. And so people would talk across me. And I'm like, you know, y'all just mean. That's
Right.
how I felt
Right.
like I was in a world of meanness. But then I turned 23 and I became a Christian. And I remember, I'm going to church, I'm joining ministry, I'm trying to get closer to God and all this. And I'm still experiencing a little bit of it. And one day I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore, Lord. Listen, I am so tired of walking around with my head down. I am so tired of trying to find a different way to get around a group of people because I would never ever walk
Right.
by a group of people. I would go all the way around just to keep them from joking me or talking
Mm,
about me, because it had happened so many times. And I got on my knees and I said, listen, Lord, please give me my voice back. And sometimes you have to be careful when you pray or how you pray, because God did that. He gave me my voice back, but I got it back in a not so good way. I became the people who bullied me and mistreated me, because for 18 years, that's what
right.
I experienced. That's what I lived. So I became those people. And God was like, wow. And I remember one day at a football game, God literally quiet the stadium. If you've ever been to a football game outside, you know how loud it can be, the band and
Yeah.
cheering. It got quiet. And God allowed me to hear myself talking to someone
Mm,
else. And when I heard the words that were coming out my mouth, I was like, oh my God, you are a bully. You are now the people who mistreated you. Listen, by the time I got to my car, I had an Oprah cry. It was a full blown Oprah cry. I was just crying because I was so upset. I got
mm-hmm.
home and I said, listen, Lord, I can't do this. I am now a Christian. I'm a child of God. I can't walk around cussing people out. I was the cusser outer because I was going to get you before you got me,
Right. Right.
protecting
Yeah.
myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
said,
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't want to go back to the non-talker. I don't want to be the cusser outer. I need you to give me a happy medium. And God did that. He really helped me over time to get. Now, I'm going to be honest. A sister is not right here 50-50, because you catch me on a bad day like anybody. You might get a little bit of the cusser outer without the cuss words. How, or when I'm driving, right? I'm being real 100. When I'm driving, you might get like a little bit of her out of there, but I consciously make an effort every day not
Yeah.
to be the
Yeah.
cusser out of, but I definitely am not going back to being the non-talker. And and
Yeah.
every day is before me. Don't be the cusser out of,
Yeah.
Valeria. Don't lose your voice, Valeria. Speak up for yourself. Watch your tone.
Wow.
Take a break. Take a pause, because it's a part of
Right.
me. I mean, it's my experiences, my
Yeah.
life is part of me.
Right, right, right. It is. And, it's very powerful, right? That something that you thought worked for you in the beginning actually became something that hurts you. Isn't that something? Right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
not using your voice, it's so funny how God does this too, because it's almost like we are always I think as humans, right? We always try to do things our way and shut things down our way, when God obviously had the intention of you always using your voice and being a storyteller, right? But you had decided when you were little, because you were young, that you weren't going to use your voice. It's just amazing to me how he lets us go through all of these transitions in our life, because now it is the story that you can tell for people who don't have a voice or think they don't have a voice. So you had to go through it in order to come, and tell us about it, right? And then
Absolutely, I
you
did.
also had, yeah, and you had to go through that other extreme too of being the cursor outer, right? Because I love that God does this too, right? Because He'll put you to shame. If you need to be put to shame for you to
Won't
correct
he?
yourself, He will put you to shame. And that's good. And it's good, right? It's like, the verse that says, spare the rod, spoil the child, right? And a lot of
Hmm.
times it's because you have to be corrected in a way that you're going to remember. You're going to remember that. Okay. And that changes your behavior. So let me ask you this: when you started to get a little bit older, like when you said you started to get into middle school, people were starting to bully you, high school, people were starting to bully you. Did you at that point, were you like so already accustomed to not having a voice that you didn't see the correlation with not speaking and the bullying? How did you uh process that?
Where for me, I will say this: God was gracious in that, because He did send teachers, certain teachers that saw stuff in me and kind of pulled it out of me, and I kind of had a little bit of a safe haven with them. I could go to those teachers,
That's
and
good.
I remember each and every one of them, but I didn't put all of it together, because you have to remember, it wasn't just me not talking. It was also because I'm fluffy. And
Right.
then I call fluffy. I don't use the FAT word, because I think that's just mean. So I'm fluffy. Fluffy makes you smile. Anyway, and I'm fluffy, and I'm kind of shy. So it was a combination of those things, and I just in my mind, from the 6-year-old to the middle, to elementary to middle school, it's like, just don't say anything, that way
Okay.
you won't make any trouble,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and in the school, kids joke everybody all the time anyway. But
Right.
mine was at a different level. And when I look back on it, I'm like, mine was just at a little bit more of a level, because
Mm-hmm.
the mean children sought me out because they knew I wasn't going to say anything. I
Right.
mean, there were
Right.
other fluffy kids in school, yeah. But some of them, they didn't bother with them because they were talking back, and they was like, you come on, I get you. But they knew I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Even with my bully, the physical bullying, he chose me in class because he knew that I wasn't going to say anything.
Mhm,
And because
mhm.
that particular day somebody possessed my body and made me say something, and that's when he physically put his hands on me, because he was shocked that I actually said something. And the
Right.
class laughed and he got mad. So I felt like they just beeline me. They was like, oh, she don't talk, so I'm gonna get her. So
Yeah.
I think it was just a combination of all those things but I did not put it together. I think it was going into adulthood that I'm like, oh, wait a minute. That decision at 6, I think it's going along a little bit too long, but it was too late. I didn't know how to
Mhm,
dig myself out of it. It
mhm.
was my life. And
Right, 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 right,
I didn't have the mental capacity to you know and then me starting to say something, it was fearful that I was
right,
going to get beat up, because the one time I did say something in high school, I got physically bullied. So it's like,
right,
oh,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally understand that. And that's a journey, isn't it? I do wanna know though, being so quiet and everything, how at the age of 23 did you make a decision to become a Christian? What was that? What pulled
it
you?
was, well, I was raised in a church. I
Okay,
was
okay.
raised in a church. And then my grandma, my godmother, and all of them, I used to go to church with them all the time. So I always had an awareness of God. But making the actual decision was at
Mhm,
23, because I was
mhm.
going to church, I was in
Yeah.
the church, but I didn't, accept God, accept Jesus. And so it was the beginning of a turning point. And
Mhm,
I really believe God, it was my godmother. I really believe God was like, okay, now it's time. I need
mhm.
for her to start talking. And
Mhm.
then God put things in my way, in my face, because I'm like, I'm in church. I'm a Christian. People shouldn't be treating me like that. And I had to get to the point where I was fed up.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I had to get on my knees and ask the Lord, because God is like, it's time now. Come on, waiting for me to ask,
Right.
because God gives us free will,
Right.
and if it was my will to continue to be quiet, then that's what it was. But God, like, no, 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 no. The devil has taken her mouth long enough. I need her to start speaking, because she
Mm.
has a story to tell, and I need
Mhm.
her to open her mouth. And so,
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
was on my knees. I'm like, okay, I just, woo, when you get fed up and you get to the point where you say that's it, that's when you
Yeah.
make the biggest steps in your life.
So, I'm so glad that you had that experience too, that God was able to say, you have a voice. It's time. So, how did that then transcend into what you do now? Because you're a storyteller now, you teach people now, you do a lot of things now, right? You were telling us in the beginning that you wear a lot of hats. So tell us a little bit about that journey for you, because what I love too is that you said, I'm a very shy person. I was a very shy person, and some people who listen to you might think, well, I'm shy, maybe I can do that too. A lot of people who are introverted struggle with that. They struggle
That's
with,
what I
yeah, they struggle with, being able to tell a story, or being a crowd of people and talk. So tell me a little bit about that transition. How did you go from that moment at the park when you had the Oprah cry, as you called it, right?
oh,
With, like, from that moment, what shifted? What made you think that this was something, that this story wasn't for you anymore but for others? What was that for you?
well, what I want people to understand is it wasn't overnight. I had
Right.
to go through some things. The first thing, some of the things I had to do was forgive people. I
Mm-hmm.
had to forgive those people who mistreated me and bullied me. I had to do some self work on myself. I had to learn
Mm-hmm.
how to love and like myself for the way I am. And I had to get rid of all those negative thoughts and those negative things that people had said to me that I believed. So
Right.
I had that. It was some things that had to be done before I became the storyteller. It was a whole lot of cleaning, because a whole lot of cleansing that needed to be done, because people, well, I'll say this, people tell a testimony, but they don't tell the whole testimony. And
Right.
so I like for people to get the whole picture. I had to go through some serious things to get here, but I wanted the work to be done because I was so tired of the person that I was. I did not want to go back. I wanted to go
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
forward. And then when I started to get my voice back, and I start hearing and believing the things that I was saying to myself, I'm like, I like her. Ooh, I like you.
Oh,
I gave myself,
good.
yes, I gave myself affirmations. I wrote my own affirmation, things that I wanted people to say to me, things I wanted to hear. I
Right.
said them to myself, and over time, I began to believe. Now I would look in the mirror, girl, you look pretty today. You look snatched. Look at you. You look fly. Oh, listen, what you just did, girl, that show was so good. And I start saying things to myself to lift my confidence, because there's no way I would be able to be a storyteller the way
Right.
that I was. So I had to do healing and get through all of that. And then what happened, God used a friend of mine to let me know, she works in the prophetic, and she said, God said that you are a storyteller. And there's that sense of humor I was telling you all about. I was like, who, me? The
Right.
non-talker, the introvert? You want me to be a storyteller? And God was showing me, basically, you have been a storyteller. Because when I
Mm.
taught school, I used to make up stories all the time with my students. I had kindergartners, first and second graders.
How
So I used
fun.
to make up stories all the time, and the parents would come in and ask me for the book. Where could they buy it? And I'm like, I just made that up.
Right.
I used to do that all the time. And then
Right.
when I became an adult, I would go into restaurants with my family, whatever, and we played a game, and we would pick couples in the restaurant and make up stories about them. And my stories
Right. How
were so
fun.
good. People thought that I knew them, thought I was cheating because my
Right.
stories were so good. And then I started journaling because I wanted to get out all that stuff that was in me. And those journals turned into books. I wrote a
Wow.
book, And then when God said, I want you to be a storyteller, he said, but your story is unique. All your stories are your personal stories because those stories are going to help people to get their voices back. Those stories are going to help people to heal because when they see, and you are a great representation for somebody who was bullied, didn't talk or whatever, and now I'm before you and I'm doing all this talking. That lets you know that God is a deliverer and he will help you. And
Yeah.
so that's what I do now. I take everything that I've gone through and I use it. I'm open, every story on my podcast is a story of something that happened to me that went through. Some of them are funny, some of them are serious, but I think people will find themselves, and if they can listen to a story and say, oh my God, that happened to her, but she made it through.
Right. Right. That's
She
the
made
key.
it that she made it through that experience.
Right.
The bullying, she made it through the bullying. She made it
Mhm.
through all of
Mhm.
that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I just, but it was a long road to get here, and then
Mhm.
now that I'm
Mhm.
here, I have not stopped telling stories. I help people. I do all of it because it's for the glory of God. And I'm just grateful that I talk now.
Right, right, right. So let me ask you a more personal question. Do you think that you would be the Valeria you are today, the amazing storyteller that you are, and funny? Guys, she is hilarious. You got to listen to her podcast. She's so funny. So, do you think you would have experienced that or had that to the fulfillment that you do without God?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah, I feel the same
Absolutely
about
not.
my journey. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no way because you have to remember if you go back, I prayed to get my voice back.
Right.
I asked God to give my voice back. You know, who else was going to help me to get my voice back? Because I grew up in a time where people of color didn't go to therapists.
Right,
They
right, right.
I didn't see people going to therapy. I mean, now is the thing, but growing up, it was like, oh, no, therapy. You don't need no therapy, girl.
Yeah,
You
you
too.
ain't crazy. Yeah, yeah.
You are exactly. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
not
didn't
I'm not
know.
Tina, so we're the same exact way. Same exact way. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just not something we did. And so I'm like,
Right.
well, God is on you. Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
need you to
That's
give me my
awesome.
voice back. My journey would have never, and this is what God wants me to do. And He has, guided my steps.
Mhm.
He just, this is what I want you to start a podcast. Now I want you to help people. I want you to get guests to come on your show. And then the next thing he was like, I want you to teach people to tell their stories. And I want you to now teach people how to find their stories. And I want you, every step of the way, God is just pushing me and pushing
It's
me and
so
pushing me.
good. So
Yeah,
good. So good. You only have one life and you have to take advantage of that because God doesn't promise us tomorrow. So if he's giving you like guidance and wants to show you things, go for them. Go for it because you never
right.
know when life will just end and you go to be with the Lord, which isn't a bad thing either. But it's like if you're here and he's giving you these gifts, use them. Utilize your gifts, right? Utilize them. So tell me a little bit about your book. What's the title of it?
The name of the book is Living in the Key of Joy. And this is a book that
Love
came
it.
as an anthology and it came together during the pandemic. A friend of mine, she wanted to create something that was positive because people were going through so much, losing family members and all that, and she wanted to do something positive. So in this, my story that I put in the book is about me losing my voice, the entire story about me losing my
Awesome.
voice. And at the end
Mhm.
of course, the outcome is I'm storytelling and all that. But all the ladies, they wrote stories about, finding joy. And it's, oh my
That's
God,
awesome.
it's such a great thing. And such a great read. You don't have to sit and read the whole book. You can just go
Mhm.
find stories and just read the stories, read mine. If you get the
Yeah.
book.
I love that. No, that's good. That's really, really good. And what's the name of it again? What's the name of it?
It's called Living in the Key of Joy. You can
Living
get
in
it
the
on
Key.
Amazon or you can email me and I'll send you a signed copy of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. And then I want to dive a little bit into your podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
It's called Miss V the Storyteller Podcast. And
Mhm.
basically I have people to come on my show and we use stories as the conversation piece. And
Mhm.
what that does, it helps people to connect with us because we want to
Mhm.
make a connection. So I share one of my stories, my guests share one of their personal stories. We dialogue and we talk about the stories and how we all both have overcome whatever the circumstances is. And I love that platform in the way that God gave it to me, because when you're listening to it, you're going to find yourself either in my place or my
Mm-hmm.
guest's place. And then when
Mm-hmm.
we talk about how we came through it, hopefully it would help you to get through whatever you're going through. And that is my goal. I want to help
That's
people
awesome.
to get their look, find their voices, especially women, because we lose our voices in so many ways in our marriages, on our jobs, with our kids, just to keep the peace. And you should never lose your voice. Now you can take a pause, but come back and say what you need to say. Do
Yeah.
not lose your voice.
So what do you do now, Valeria? I know that you say you speak and stuff like that and that you're teaching and everything. So tell us a little bit about that journey for you. Are you like speaking on stages? Are you speaking virtually? When you teach, are you teaching people how to tell stories? Like tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
So what I do now is I teach online classes and one-on-one consulting. I help people to
Okay.
find their stories. Basically, what I do is, because I'm a storyteller, there's an art to it. And
Mhm.
so when someone, let's say you're a keynote speaker and you're going to do TED Talk, or you the keynote speaker, I help you to craft and find your personal story at the beginning of your speech or whatever. And what that does, it helps your audience to connect with you. And
Mhm.
people, a lot of
That's
times,
good.
people don't do that. What they do is they
Mhm.
go up there and they start talking about what they do and giving you all these rules and regulations. And what happens is people pick up their phone, get on their phone because they're bored, been there, done that. But if you start your speech with your story and open yourself up and be vulnerable, those people will connect with you. So
Mhm.
whatever else you say in your speech, you have their attention. So
That's
I
right.
help them to find the story, to craft it in a way that's entertaining and that will hold the audience attention.
That's so
And
good and so necessary. That's
it is,
good.
because the
Mhm.
same old, and people want real now. If you look
Mhm.
at reality
Mhm.
TV and you look at all that, people are looking for real, authentic people, not the same, cookie cutter speeches and all that. One of my friends did it, and she was teaching a class, and the thing about it was, she said that after the class, the students were coming up to her because she made herself touchable. It brought
Wow.
her down from being a doctor, because she's a doctor. They brought it down to her to be on their same level, and they felt comfortable enough to come
Yeah.
to her and talk to her. Had she gone and did the same way, because she took my class, the same way that she had been, those students would have never come to her, because she was
Right.
surprised. She called me immediately. She was like, I can't believe the students were running up to me and asked me. I said, that's because you just made a connection and you made yourself on their level, and they felt
Yeah.
comfortable enough to come and talk to you.
Right. She made herself human. She didn't make herself untouchable, right? Because once they
Absolutely.
once they saw the doctor part, they're like, "Uh-oh, she's a doctor." But if you can say, I go through the same struggles as you and you would connect in that level, people first of all, they respect you more. And secondly, like when they think of something that they're going through, they think of you because they think of the connection you now made, not just the speech you gave, but the connection you made. And that's so important. I think, and you know this, Valeria, because you're a storyteller and you teach people this. But I'm sure all of us have watched something where we did not connect with that speaker at all.
At all.
Like we just didn't connect. It just doesn't make any sense. We cannot connect. This is not personal. I don't know what's going on here. But when you connect with someone, you remember it. You remember the speech. You
You
remember what
remember
they
the
said.
story.
You remember, yes, it's true. The story, you're absolutely right. Because you won't remember like all of the statistics, but you'll remember the story if they put something behind it you can connect with 100%.
Yes.
I think good storytellers are amazing to have. And really, I love those are the kind of like TED Talks I like
Mhm.
watching. Those are the kind of conversations I like because you connect with people in a deeper way. So tell me a little bit
Yes.
about how somebody goes about working with you then, because if you're teaching this amazing technique, because not everybody has this. I took storytelling classes and stuff in college. And I learned a lot and I didn't even know, right? So how did somebody work with you? Like, do they on your website? Is there,
So
how do they connect? Yeah.
they can go to my website is missvthestoryteller.godaddysites.com, and they can connect with me there, or they can just email me, and I will set up a Zoom call with them to see what their needs are, because there are some people that need one-on-one,
Yeah.
and I know that they don't have time to wait for a class. But then there's some people that can be in a classroom setting and can get everything they need, and they're fine with it. But then there are one-on-one clients. So what I do is I figure out where you fit, and each month I have a class. And during the month, I have one-on-one clients where I set up like an hour a week. I give you homework, we come back, we talk about it.
Oh,
I give
good.
you some more tidbits and everything for it, and then we come back for however long. Now the thing about it is, it's not just for public speaking. It's for if you're on a podcast, it's for if you are teaching a class, anywhere where you have to be in front of a group of people. You need to tell your story. Even on your website, you need to
Mm-hmm.
have your
Mm-hmm.
story up there, because that is
Mm-hmm.
a potential to grab someone. And even when you're doing one-on-one client, you're trying to get a client into your business, when you sit down and tell them about yourself and you tell them your story, right there you have an instant connection, because your people that they're in the same field as you, they could have
Mm-hmm.
gone down the street to someone and all that person is told them, well, this is what I can do to you, and give you a sales thing. But when you come to me and I'm telling you my story first, to how I became who I am, right there I have you. And
Right.
I've built
Right.
trust between you, because I'm vulnerable. I'm opening
Right.
myself up to you. And now you can trust that whatever my services is, that I'm going to do the best for you. And I got
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
That person
Mm-hmm.
down the street, you lost them because you didn't tell your story. So that is a tool you need to use.
It really is. And you know what? There's a technique to it too. It's not
It
just
is.
telling a story, because you can overtell, you can oversay things where people are just now disconnected, right? Or you can tell it in a way where you don't even seem authentic. So there's different ways and there's techniques to this. So I'm glad you're teaching people that, because I don't want people to think, oh, I could just tell my story. That's not how this works.
It is
Like there,
not.
right,
It
right.
is
There's a
not, because
way to do it.
it
Hmm.
is. And then people sometimes they ramble and they get all, it's like, get to the
Exactly.
point,
Exactly.
and people, you're only going to have a certain amount of time to grab them, or you're going
Right.
to lose them. And I teach you to do that, how to grab them, how to tell a story in an entertaining way that would keep them
Right.
off of their cell phones or from getting up to go to the bathroom.
Right. Right. Well, you know what, Valeria? I thank you so much for being on Straight Talk, because I think these are techniques that really people can use. I know that my audience is mainly like leaders and entrepreneurs. So this is definitely something they should be looking into, especially even in leaders. Like you said, when you're in front of a group of people, if you start to connect with your teams in a way where it's personal,
Yes.
they're going to respect you, and they're going to feel like they connect with you. So now you can drive your vision, whatever that vision is that you're going for as a leader or an entrepreneur. If you can connect with people, they will follow you. They will follow you because they know now, oh, this person is so real. I know what she wants to do, and I know how to connect with her. That's how I connect with my team. That's why my team will follow me anywhere. Right? Why?
Yeah.
Because I lead them authentically, and they know me for real, for real. So that's a beautiful thing. I'm so glad you're doing that. And I'm glad we finally connected. There's been a couple of
Yes.
like changes and stuff, but I really appreciate you. Oh, one more thing before I let you go. I know you have a class coming up. Can you just let us know when that class is and stuff for the people?
Okay, perfect. The class is this coming Thursday, which is May 25th. It's from 7 to 8, and it's my online class. And for the first 5 people, well, now the first 3 people that sign up, I've had some other people that sign up for the class. You would get a one-on-one session for free. Your freebie is you'll get a one-on-one session with me after the class, or we set up the Zoom, and I sit
Mhm.
down and I help you with whatever you started, to help you to craft your story. So it's
Right.
going to be from about an hour, depending on how many students it is. It may take a little bit more than an hour, but it is so much fun. I'm telling you, I've done this class, and everybody that's taken this class, they're like, oh my God, it is so much more to
Yeah.
storytelling than just reading a book or just telling. It's so
Yeah.
much more
For
Please, if you're
sure.
out there and you have a business, you need this class, or if you want one-on-one counseling, I am more than well, not counseling, one-on-one,
Coaching.
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 I'm more
Yeah.
than happy to help you with it.
Perfect. And you said you do these like once a month, you try to
Zoom,
do them.
yes, it's via
Yeah.
Zoom. Yeah. Mhm.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for being so much fun and for being authentic and real. Because I think, when you can connect with people in a real way and show people, you know what, being not having a voice and being shy and all of that is not your demise. You can get out of this. You know what I mean? You can
Yes.
move forward. So thank you so much, Valeria. You were so much fun. I appreciate you being on Straight Talk.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'm glad we were able to connect. So
Me
thank you.
too. Me too. Thank you so much. And guys, you heard her, right? Isn't she amazing? I told you you'd love her. I'm going to make sure to link all of her information below. I'm going to post this immediately so that you guys can jump onto her, coaching that she's doing next Thursday. I don't want you to miss that. So thank you guys for being here. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.